Hey, Studio 23 Nashville has an amazing songwriter today. Barbara Streisand, Willie Nelson, Diamond Rio, just some of the names that have recorded his songs. Pretty impressive, huh?
Yes, I'm very happy to have with us today BTomberlin. Wonderful singer, wonderful player and writer. We got some good music for you.
Hey, welcome into Studio 23 Nashville. I'm Jennifer Herron, Brian Cumming here, and this fellow here is a Grammy, CMA, and ACM nominee. You were also a radio DJ at one time. Give us your best radio voice, BTomberlin.
You're watching Studio 23.
I love it. Were you the after hours DJ?
No, actually, I was the afternoon drive DJ.
Yeah. But that's where you
It wasn't that low at that point because I was 11 years old.
It was that Peter Brady thing?
It was more like, hi, I'm Bobby T, and you're listening to WLVN, Luverne, Alabama.
Luverne, Alabama.
And you started when you were 11.
11 years old. I had a make-believe radio station in my bedroom when I was 5. And then when I was 6, 7, 8, 9, and my parents were like, gosh, is he ever going to get out of the house and play? And then finally at age 11, I started working at the radio station in my hometown, a 500-watt AM station.
Amazing. And that's where you met a lot of your celebrities that you idolized, right?
Yeah, and talked to them on the phone, or we'd go to press conferences, in Montgomery. Montgomery was the closest city. So that's where the group, Alabama or Hank Williams Jr. would come and do concerts. And there I was, 11 and 12 years old with a press pass and a little cassette recorder. And all the other jocks were like, who is this kid? What is this about?
What a great way.
Good memories, though. Yeah. Good memories.
And then you were playing guitar pretty soon.
I was early on and trying to write songs and
playing in bands.
Playing in bands. Played in the FFA string band.
Really?
Yeah, played guitar. And I actually went back to the state FFA convention in Montgomery this past year, and I got to honor my I shouldn't say old, but my former FFA advisor, Mr. Wyndham Pittman, and that was really special getting to do that.
Amazing
I
times.
never knew about an FFA string band. Is that a nationwide
It's a big
tradition?
deal, absolutely.
So it's kind of like debate and everything else. Y'all compete with
Right,
the other
we
FFAs?
went to like the district competition, then the state competition, and then you go to nationals. And at that time it was in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And you played country. And they really want you to play country or bluegrass too, because it's Future Farmers of America.
Yeah, agricultural music.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was a blast. I had FFA for 2 periods when I was in school, so we just played music for 2 hours every day.
That is great.
Being from Alabama, was your idol Hank Williams?
Oh,
or
no
who
doubt.
was it that you just
Oh,
really...
no, that was...
It was?
No doubt that was the reason I ever picked up a guitar or tried to write a song, because, he was from 30, 35 miles away from my hometown, and I knew family members and band members and friends, and like my parents, they, saw... They went to some concerts that Hank and Audrey did at their school for a nickel. You see, Hank Sr. would have a radio show in Montgomery, an early morning radio show. Then he and the band would leave the radio station. Then they would go to schoolhouses in the afternoon to do matinees. Then they would set up on the corner of a street, of the streets, and say, hey, we're going to be at, this... the bar tonight, or this honky tonk. I mean, and that was kind of their schedule for years until he went to the Louisiana Hayride.
Amazing, yeah. It was so different
before he
back
had
then.
a record deal.
Yeah, oh yeah. A lot of people don't realize it, but he wrote I Saw the Light, Honky Tonkin', and a lot of those songs down in Montgomery when he was in Montgomery, and he sang them on the radio station.
Didn't you tell us he was singing at a Chevrolet dealership or something like that?
In my hometown, the grand opening of the Chevy dealership, a picture was discovered just a few years ago of Hank and Audrey and a couple of band members at this grand opening of the Chevy dealership. The building is still there in my hometown, and there were, no doubt, there was over 200 people gathered around him like he was already a superstar.
Oh my gosh. He just had something magical.
He really did.
Some kind of charisma.
He really did.
Yeah. So when did you decide to make the jump and come over to Nashville like Hank did?
Well, I was in radio, like I said, all through high school in my hometown. Then I went to a little town, Andalusia, Alabama, And I was there a couple of years and then met a guy by the name of Billy Henderson, who was based out of Muscle Shoals, and he would come home and visit his family. And he kind of took me under his wing. He had had songs recorded at that time by Jerry Reed and T.G. Shepherd and Crystal Gale, and he was kind of my mentor. And then I went to Muscle Shoals and worked in radio and was roommates with Mike McGuire, the drummer of Shenandoah. Oh, wow. And that was an education.
Did you watch Shenandoah sessions in Muscle Shoals?
I went to a couple of the sessions, and,
yeah.
And I was hanging around when they would pick songs, and it was really, no doubt, it was an education for me. And I'm thankful for that.
They were doing that in Muscle Shoals?
They were. They lived in Muscle Shoals. They recorded in Muscle Shoals.
Is there something you still carry as a songwriter, maybe, that you learned at that time when they were picking songs? What they look for or how they listen, bands and groups like that?
That's a good question. I just learned really about great songs because at that time, they were having #1 records and they were getting the cream of the crop of songs.
Yeah.
I mean, writers like Hugh Prestwood, he was sending songs like Ghost in This House.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Songs like Church on Cumberland Road, the cassette. I still remember getting the cassette of that song out of the mailbox.
Were you a member of the Penny Club? Yeah. Remember those houses? You'd get the
No, but
records
the actual song was pitched to them.
Really?
I got the cassette.
That cassette?
Oh, yeah, that cassette.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, the publishing company, I remember it was actually called Little Big Town Music.
Yeah.
And Bob DePiro was one of the writers.
And John Scott Sherrill.
John Scott Sherrill, that's right. And Dennis Robbins.
Yeah,
was on that song.
They
God,
formed
I can't
a group
believe I remembered that.
You have a mind like a trap when it comes to that, and all of the songwriters and the people that were included behind this.
I just love it. I've always loved it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I moved to Nashville 1990. Mel Tillis, I mentioned earlier, he was my first publisher.
Yeah.
And
how many writers were with Mel at the time?
At the time, probably about 8 writers. I remember Kathy Leuven, Ira Leuven's daughter, was there, and she was just really just on fire. She had written Queen of Memphis for Confederate Railroad, Keep It Between the Lines for Ricky Van Shelton. Dennis Atkins was a writer there. He wrote Ace in the Hole for George Strait.
Yeah.
Jim Martin. But Kent Westbury, he had been around for like 20, 25 years. So there were people like Kent that you could really learn from too. But Mel, I mean, my gosh, his history and it was so cool. Every Monday he would come in from Branson and he would listen to the new songs. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. I thought, wow, Mel Tillis is
He was
listening.
every week
week
in Branson.
He was in Branson all through, the week and
Yeah.
the weekend, but he would have Monday off and he would fly in.
Yeah.
And I remember he would hear a song and he would ask the secretary, "Get Waylon on the line. Where's Willie?" And I thought, wow, this is
the way it's
amazing.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, just a phone call away. Was he a coach to you as well? Did he critique any of the songs, or?
No, not really critique, but if he liked one of them, he would let you know. He would let you know.
And he was a writer, so he
was a writer. Yeah. I mean, he wrote Detroit City, Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town, and all of those Webb Pierce hits. Right, I Ain't Never. And so, no, that was a big deal, him being my first publisher. And at the office, he had, a lot of office space that he rented out. So George and Nancy Jones had an office there. Yeah. Scott Hendricks was upstairs, and Faith Hill, he was just beginning to produce her first record. So it was a magical time. Magical time.
Yeah. Man, what was the next publisher?
Well, Mel eventually sold the publishing company. He was building this huge theater in Branson.
Yeah.
And I drove in one Monday morning and he's like, "Well, we're shutting her down." And I'm like, "Oh no, man." But it was okay. It led to a contract with Reba's company, Starstruck.
Yeah.
I was with them for 1 year and then I signed with Curb, and I've been with them now for 22 years.
Whoa.
And what is it like with these publishing deals? I mean, are you Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, you better be writing songs, you got to write so many songs per week? How does that work?
That's a good question. For me, I'm disciplined, and I try, if I'm in town, I try to keep an appointment each day, and then, a lot of the weekends I'm on the road doing shows, and that's something that's just kind of come about in the last few years.
Are you one of those writers that, I've heard this before, that there will be song pluggers or different people out there that will hear, hey, let's say George Strait. George Strait is looking for a waltz and kind of this, that, and the other for his album. And then you kind of write to what somebody's looking for, or do you just
I've
write?
tried that, but that never works for
Yeah.
me. It's never worked for me.
Well, the way we were talking downstairs, you made it clear that you are not the go to work and churn it out like a product. You know, you're.
I don't want it to ever become like a song factory.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
even if I do write 4 days a week or 5 days a week, I want to write with people that really have the passion, and they don't look at it like, okay, just another song. I don't care if I never hear it again. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't need to have songs sitting on a shelf.
Definitely, and most of them have not. They've been in the hands of some very big stars. We'll talk
Well,
about that up next on Studio 23 Nashville.
Hickman County, Tennessee. It feels a lot like home, or how home should feel. Come by, sit a spell. Soak in the goodness that inspired Minnie Pearl to write about this special place. Visit Hickman County, Tennessee's hidden treasure. Do you want to win friends and influence people? Don't buy a book. Advertise on Studio 23 Nashville. It's easy. Just contact us at studio23nashville@gmail.com.
Well, Bobby, it is a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
The song that we're about to play is maybe your biggest hit. Is that fair to say? Diamond Rio.
Diamond Rio.
I guess they did it in a different key
They did.
because that guy can really get up there.
Yeah, man. Those harmony
Right.
singers,
Yeah.
they really get up there. They do those Bill Monroe harmonies.
Yeah, yeah. But it works great the way you do it too. So I'm going to let you determine the tempo and everything.
All
I'm just going to
right.
follow you along. One
Song
more
called,
day.
yeah, One More Day. Last night I had a crazy dream. A wish was granted just for me. It could be for anything. I didn't ask for money or a mansion in Malibu. I simply wished for one more day with you. One more day, one more time, one more sunset, maybe I'd be satisfied. But then again, I know what it would do. Leave me wishing still one more day with you. First thing I do is pray for time to crawl. Then I'd unplug the telephone and I'd keep that TV off. I'd hold you every second and I'd say a million I love yous. That's what I'd do. One more day with you. One more day, one more time, one more sunset, maybe I'd be satisfied. But then again, I know what it would do. Leave me wishing still one more day with you. One more day, one more time, one more sunset, maybe I'd be satisfied. But then again, I know what it would do. Leave me wishing still for one more day. Wishing still for one more day. Leave wishing still for one more day with you.
So pretty.
Oh man, thank
That's so
you.
romantic.
Well, how about that? I mean,
Can I ask what you were thinking about when you wrote it? Was there a romantic? Was there a woman?
you know, actually, that song was inspired during a holiday season. I had lost an uncle who actually had taught me my, guitar chords and and several other losses. It was just one of those periods where I lost a lot of people that were close to me. And it just kind of hit me, and I wasn't even thinking about writing a song. And the guitar was there, and that first verse pretty much fell out.
Yeah.
And the next day, I was co-writing with my buddy Stephen Dale Jones, and I played it for him, and he loved it, and then we finished it.
We've been talking, getting to know each other. You talk a little bit about Hank Sr., because you're from that part of the country.
I am.
Luverne, Alabama, which is not that far from Montgomery. One thing that I came to Nashville to learn more about songwriting, and one thing that I noticed about this song is that the verse ends with that title, and then the chorus begins with that title. And I don't know if that's a Hank Sr. technique, or if there's anything going on in the structure there. It's a very superficial observation, but
I mean, now that you mention it, he did that quite often.
Yeah, and it really works. I mean, it just helps the song. Like now I get it. Oh yeah, I get it again.
That one was straight from the heart.
Oh, I hear it.
And for Stephen Dale too.
Yeah.
Did
you write it in Nashville?
I did write it in Nashville.
But was the holiday in Alabama where you missed your uncle?
Yeah, and the other people, most of them actually were from Alabama.
Yeah, I can relate.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I really like the song. I'm glad to hear the story.
Thank you.
We're talking with Bobby Tomberlin and learning a lot about the songwriting business in Nashville and how it works, or can work, if you're Bobby.
Yeah, it's worked in his favor, I tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we listed earlier some folks that have recorded your songs, like the Barbra Streisands, Diamond Rio, Daryl Worley, Mo Pitney. There's a whole range of people in different styles. How did you get your songs to these people?
That's one of the things that I'm the most proud of, though, is it's kind of from one end of the spectrum to the other. And my publisher at Curb, Drew Alexander, he loves to talk about that, because a lot of writers, they just write the pop style. But I've had songs, and I'm not bragging, I've been blessed to have songs recorded by Eddie Arnold, Little Jimmy Dickens, Jerry Lee Lewis, but at the same time, Faith Hill, Thompson Square, or Blake Shelton. And that's the thing that I'm probably most proud of. I love not being kind of pigeonholed in one territory. However, when I sing, it's definitely a more country style. It comes from that Hank Williams background, but
with a blues flavor.
I love the blues. Love the blues, but I just love great music. I love Hank Williams, love Merle Haggard, love James Taylor, love Nat King Cole. I'm a huge Burt Bacharach and and Hal David fan, big fan of their work. And
what song got cut by Barbra Streisand?
It's a song I wrote with Steve Dorff and Jay Landers called "I'd Want It to Be You," and it was a duet on her partner's CD, and she recorded it with Blake Shelton.
Oh, okay. So
and now that's something I never dreamed of. I mean, again, I'm a country guy down in Alabama listening to...
Were you in the studio?
Oh, no. Are you kidding? I've never met Barbara at all. I did attend her concert in L.A.
How was the song treated on the recording?
I was so proud of it.
I mean, is it
Oh,
pretty
yeah,
uptown
big strings, and it was definitely one of the highlights. It's something I never even dreamed of when Steve Dorff called me and said she likes this song. I couldn't believe that. I really couldn't.
I don't even know how it gets to a person like that.
Well, Steve had a lot to do with that. He had 2 songs recorded by Barbara before, and he knew her producer, and she knows his work. So no doubt that helped.
Right.
That helped. Open ear,
Yeah, but then again, you had to have the song, the right song. She wasn't doing it as a favor to Steve.
Yeah.
I can promise you that.
Has there ever been a time when some of these people recorded one of your songs and you listen to it and you're like, that is not the way I sang it at all, or that's not... Was there?
That's never happened to me. I've heard a lot of people talk about that happening, but for me, I'm usually very happy. I mean, I remember a song I wrote with Rivers Rutherford
Yeah.
called I Want You, and Faith Hill recorded it, and she totally did a different treatment on it than our demo, but we were pleased with it. It was so much bigger, you know.
Yeah.
It was just great. But hey, I'm just proud if someone wants to record one of my songs and they spend the money to go in the studio and risk their career. I mean, I'm so thankful. You know,
And they
appreciative.
must have a sense that this song is going to connect with their audience. I mean, that's kind of the key motive, you know, that a singer has to believe, I should do this song, you know, because it will help me, you know, appeal to my audience. And, you know, it's about their career. They're looking for songs that will
Right.
do what the song will do.
I've been blessed, you know, to write a lot of songs with artists, and they've recorded them too. That hasn't
Yeah.
always been the case.
Yeah.
But people like Darryl Worley, you know, he wrote a song called A Good Day to Run.
Yeah.
And that was his first top 10 song. But the cool thing about that, when we wrote it, he didn't even have a record deal.
Oh,
And
really?
he always told me, now, if I get a record deal, I'm going to record this. And I've heard that many times.
Was
and
this,
it usually doesn't work out like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So he held his word. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's just worked for him, too.
Yeah.
And you know, like Mo Pitney. Mo Pitney's a great songwriter.
Yeah.
Not only a great artist, but he's a true songwriter. And he's not going to settle for less.
Yeah.
Terry Clark actually is a great songwriter. I'm just thinking of people that I've written with.
Yeah.
Then they've recorded. Josh Turner, really good songwriter.
Really?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now that's Long Black Train or whatever
Right.
it's called.
Yes.
And I
Right.
heard the story that when he had just written that, he performed it at the Grand Ole Opry.
Standing ovation.
And the audience wanted to hear it again and
Yes.
again.
And again.
3 times.
That hasn't happened many times.
And you
Yeah.
know what is so funny? I heard that on the Opry, his very first performance.
Yeah.
And again, I'm listening on the radio driving, and I'm picturing him as this older guy with a long beard and a long black coat
Because you
for
got
some
that
reason.
deep voice.
Yeah.
You know.
And then I saw him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, who is this kid? You're the kid with that voice. It was
He
amazing.
loves country music too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of those guys. He listens to Hank Williams and a lot of the bluegrass guys.
I love that. I love people that respect the heritage.
I
like
do
that.
too. I do too.
That's a perfect segue into the song that you call Grand Ole Opry, that you wrote about the Opry. It's a tribute really to the history of country music through the lens of that particular venue.
Yeah, well, I had wanted to write a song about the Opry for many years, and I tried.
Yeah.
It just never turned out right, and it was just.
Was it you by yourself trying to write it, or
Yeah, usually it was.
and you just
And then who, you know, of all things, you go in and write with a stranger, and you end up
Yeah.
writing that song you've wanted to write for
Finally
so
clicks.
long.
that is so. Did you all feel that when you came up
Oh,
with
you
it?
bet
just
we
said, like,
did.
Here it is.
You bet we did.
Yeah. Does he have an equal respect? for the
Appreciation,
Opry?
he does. He does, and the part that really gets me, you know, is, you know, it's like the Opry's talking.
Yeah.
And talking about, God, when Hank Williams used to visit me, you know, are some of my favorite memories. It's so real.
It really is too, because you hear about the Ryman or the Grand Ole Opry stage. When
Yeah.
you stand up there, it's almost like there are spirits there. So when you say it's like the Opry talking, I always feel like it's those spirits surfacing there and echoing
Absolutely.
throughout the building.
Absolutely.
You know, we've talked so much about your songwriting, but your songwriting ties into so many other adventures, like your acting, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
There is this movie
Yeah.
that I've been raving to you about. I say, you need to see this movie.
Yeah.
It's called Wheeler, that you star in, but it also ties in songwriting and kind of gives you a real life look at songwriting behind the scenes.
I
does it
think
not?
so. I think it may be the truest movie when it comes to showing how it really is in the Nashville community as far as songwriting. And Stephen Dorff is the main star, and he did an amazing job. Chris Christopherson's in the film, and a lot of the people here locally, like Bart Herbison with the NSAI.
Yeah.
Producer Jim Ed Norman, musicians like Eddie Bayers and
Yeah.
Mike Johnson. So it's really, you check it out if you can.
I will. I will.
And
But
the
it's just released
soundtrack.
this year.
This year.
Yeah. But it's really kind of cool because the guy is much like what you talk about, a guy who does respect the history and stuff and has
Absolutely.
this dream and these emotions where he can connect, and he comes to
Yeah, he
town
takes a
and it's
tour,
magic
literally
happens.
on a tour. Ron Harmon, who does the Studio B tour at the Country Music Hall of Fame, he in the film he takes a tour, and Ron talks about Christopherson being a janitor at Columbia Records, and you can just see, you know, the excitement in the character's face, and it actually is for real. The actor actually felt that way.
Yeah.
So it's the real deal.
Well, it kind of brings to mind the other movies that have been made, they've been documentaries, but the movie Nashville,
Right.
Robert Altman, there have been lots of chances. There's one, is it called?
The Thing Called Love.
Oh yeah, we're there at the
Yes.
Bluebird
Yeah,
Cafe.
The Bluebird.
Yes.
And we
Bluebird.
actually filmed a scene in the Bluebird
Yeah.
with this character too. So yeah, you'll just
That
have
would
to
make
check
sense.
it out.
Okay.
Yeah,
Does it
Wheeler.
occur nowadays in Nashville? Or, I mean, you say some of these people are playing themselves, and it's,
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's current. Absolutely.
okay. Man, well, we
Very
do have to watch this.
interesting.
Well, way to go.
Well, we'll talk about some of Bobby's other adventures when we come back. So stick with us on Studio 23 Nashville.
Straighten up and flat right.
Now available, Come Out Swingin', the new CD by the Brian Cumming Jazz Quartet. Come Out Swingin' is available at studio23nashville.com and all major digital retailers.
Sing, come out swinging.
Come Out Swingin' by the Brian Cumming Jazz Quartet. Get yours today. Be the envy of the neighborhood. Make your friends jealous. Be the first on your block to get official swag from Studio 23 Nashville, Pinkerton Productions, and Brian Cumming. Just visit our store at the bottom of the page and order yours today.
This next song, you have managed to write about a place that's also an institution that is unique in American culture. So you want to tell me how you took on the challenge and how it came about and how it's been received?
Well, the song, it's called the Grand Ole Opry, and just like millions of other people, I listened to the Opry when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I turned that AM radio sideways, upside down, just trying
get
to
the
get
signal,
that
yeah.
WSM signal. And
Yeah.
I wanted to write a song about the Opry for a long time, and it just never came out right. And one morning I was writing with this guy, J.P. Williams, who writes over at Major Bob's Publishing Company. We had never even met, and we ended up writing this song.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your experience in Nashville has many facets to it, and all of them seem to be a positive, indication of what you can do as a songwriter. But one of them is about co-writing and just trying a lot of, partnerships. That
Absolutely.
They might be totally cold, but you're both serious about writing, so
Right.
you just kind of bring your
This
your
song,
skills,
this
your
song
tools.
means a lot to me. I remember one of the first people I ever played this for was little Jimmy Dickens. When I was in town, I would drive him out to the Opry if I happened to be in on a
Yeah.
weekend, and so I would play him songs, and he loved to hear new songs, and
Yeah.
he kind of signed off on it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, if he signs off on it, we can
That's great.
we can move on. And on my record, little Vince Gill came in and Whisper and Bill Anderson, and they sang on this song.
And you've got fiddle and some really beautiful traditional
Oh,
sounding
yeah.
acoustic instruments to kind of help convey that.
Mike Johnson on steel guitar, and yeah, it's,
Well,
it's one of my
let's do
favorites.
Grand Ole Opry.
All right. I was born on one November night back in 1925. Millions would invite me in to their living room like some old friend. I remember it like it was yesterday. First time I crossed the radio waves, I was introduced by George D. Hay. He'd say, "Let her go, boys," and the fiddles played. And they say that I'm the one that made country music what it is today. But it really wasn't me. It was the stars that graced my stage. I'm alive and well as I can be. I'm the Grand Ole Opry. When Hank Williams used to visit me, were some of my favorite memories. And what I'd give for just one more time to hear the voice of Patsy Cline. And they say that I'm the one that made country music what it is today. But it really wasn't me, it was the stars that graced my stage. I'm alive and well as I can be, I'm the Grand Ole Opry. I'm just so proud to be here, y'all. Here's the Wabash Cannonball, and the coal miner's daughter's as good as it gets. And the circle ain't been broken yet. No, the circle, it ain't been broken yet. And they say that I'm the one that made country music what it is today. But it really wasn't me, it was the stars that graced my stage. I'm alive and well as I can be, I'm the Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah.
Let her go,
So
boys.
have you? That's a great phrase too. Have you played the Opry?
You know, I've been on stage with Larry Gatlin doing a song that we wrote, and then earlier this year, I was on stage with the actor Stephen Dorff doing a song from a movie that we're involved in called Wheeler. And you're not going to believe what happened 3 weeks ago. I receive a phone call. I'm at the airport in Shreveport, and my co-writer on this song, J.P. Williams, says, "Man, can you do the Opry with me and sing this song Saturday night?" He says, "Lori Morgan heard it, and she wants us to do it on her show." And I'm like, "I'm in Texas, and I can't do it." But he did, and I'm so proud that he had the opportunity, and he got a standing ovation. So, so that was really
Great to
special.
hear. It really is a song that the Opry has been waiting for.
Well,
You know, it's like
I
finally, you know, a tribute to the place that.
It was a
history.
gift. You know, I always say the songs, the great ones, are gifts, and, you know, I just hold the pen.
We would think that every time you walk to your mailbox, you have a check this fat with all the hit songs you've written.
Right.
Is it that way?
No, it's not that
Oh.
way. Not at all.
What about with all the downloads and stuff going on?
Oh, that's
nowadays?
really affected those checks.
eating up?
Yeah, because you would be surprised how small the pay is from the downloads and from the streaming especially. I mean, you can have a song that's, you know, streamed over 1 million times and you're lucky to make $13 from it.
Really?
Yeah, so it's really, it's affected the songwriting community. Bart at the NSAI, I think he has said that there's like 70% less songwriters here now than there were
Because
maybe
it's
10
just
years
not-
ago.
Yeah. It's not able
It's
to
hard.
make it.
There's no way to sustain it as a living.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, unless you have singles or you land albums that still sell.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still some product that sells. Actually,
When was the Diamond Rio hit? Was
that was back like 2002, something like that, 2001 and
So
2.
the business still had a good bit
Oh
of its
yeah,
momentum from
absolutely. And still, I mean, radio pays the same, so that's still. Yeah,
So
you
airplay,
can definitely
you can
make a good living in it. It's just not, but you're going to have to really land good recordings, you know, on major acts and that are selling.
But the streaming, all the technology that you mentioned, is just a reshaping of the business environment. And
You know
so-
what? Hopefully it can be figured out. I mean,
Yeah, I
I'm
imagine
a
that-
member of the NSAI. I'm on the board, and we've made so many trips to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
to talk to the, you know, on Capitol Hill about this situation.
Yeah.
And we're positive. We have to stay positive.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of the stores, you know, for instance, I've noticed in the newer automobiles, they don't have CD players
I
anymore.
know. Yeah.
So then the stores are phasing out some of the CDs
Yeah.
and stuff. And I think, oh, so it's only going to strictly be downloading, and then what then?
But you know what's interesting? When I do a show, people still love to buy a CD. It's a personal, and maybe it's just the personal touch
a
at
souvenir
the
of
show.
yeah.
Maybe a souvenir. Maybe that has a lot to do with it.
I miss those inserts. So with the download,
I
you
know.
don't get that. I love opening that page
Yeah.
and reading and seeing the thank yous and all the pictures
The
and stuff.
songwriters,
Yeah.
the musicians.
Yeah.
But you know what? Vinyl is huge now. That's really, it's
is.
picked up.
Even with country.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know a lot of kids, alternatively independent, rock, and it is a trendy thing. but
Yeah,
it-
it's
No,
trendy.
it's big with a lot of artists. I mean, Hank Jr., Chris Stapleton, Alison
Yeah.
Krauss. I mean, there's several artists in the country field that move a lot of vinyl.
I
Do
didn't know
they-
if it was a collection thing where they keep it in the plastic or if they actually play it.
I think they
Yeah,
play it.
They play it. Well, I have to laugh because I think it was on the Today Show a couple months ago. They had a story and they said of all things that cassettes are coming back. I do not. They did a whole story on
Are you
it.
serious?
And
No, I don't miss
cannot
the cassette.
imagine. Because those things would, well, I lived in South Texas. Those tapes would melt
Oh,
in your
they would.
car
Sure they
and they
would.
would break and stuff.
And how about the 8-tracks?
Oh my gosh,
you know-
I have a collection of 8 tracks. I do.
But I never figured it out, especially now looking back on it, how you can, listen to channel 1 and then all of a sudden they fade down in the middle of one of the
because
songs.
of the timing of
Yeah, I just
Technology.
I don't miss that one.
yeah, that was odd.
No.
But 8-tracks did have wider tapes, so theoretically you get better signal-to-noise ratio and better
Yeah,
fidelity.
you're right. I have good memories of
Yeah.
being a kid and driving in the country, listening to Loretta Lynn and Johnny Cash
On
and Merle
8-track.
Haggard on 8-track. My
Oh,
dad
man.
playing those 8-tracks.
Isn't it amazing? And all this digital stuff has affected Music Row so much. When you
So
walk
much.
down there, does it break your heart a little bit that
It
there aren't all
does.
the studios? Because everybody
Well,
can do it at home.
yeah.
You know what? I'm so tired of going into the office, and it takes me double time because there's cranes and bulldozers on Music Row. That happens every week.
Yeah.
I get so frustrated. And I drove down 18th Avenue the other day, and this apartment building that's been there since the 40s, blown up. They had blown it up, and I knew a lot of writers that stayed there when they came to town.
Yeah.
I hate that. I mean, again, like I said earlier, we got to change. I know things change, but
There are not many studios left. And
Yeah. The studios were so unique, though. And I don't think, even though people can record at home and it's convenient and maybe
Yeah.
even cheaper, I don't think they're set up quite the way those studios
Well,
were. There was a
no.
reason. They were built, the acoustics and stuff were just
Yeah.
so specific.
I still
and
love
great.
the studio.
You could even listen
Yeah,
to an
it's
album
too
and
bad.
say, that was recorded here because of the acoustics
Yeah.
of certain sounds.
I
you
get
know?
so excited. I mean, like going to the Quonset Hut,
Yeah.
the first studio in Nashville where Patsy and Johnny Cash recorded, and then Studio B. I mean, I was there at an event the other night and just thinking, about the Roy Orbison, the Everly Brother recordings in that
even the
room.
Monkees and Beach Boys.
Well,
recorded
true,
on that, yeah.
true. And,
But Chet,
and at Curb, where I write, our studio, I mean, Johnny Cash cut there. And so many greats, George Jones and
yeah.
Dolly. So I love that
Carpenters,
history.
Yeah.
I just love the
We've
history.
got to hang on to some of that. We've been talking about all his songwriting and stuff. I have to break into his singing, though. He was on one of those reality type TV shows, a singing bee, right?
Yeah, it was on CMT, 5 seasons. It was really a game show.
Yeah.
Hosted by Melissa Peterman, who was a part of the Reba show.
She was the
at one
blonde on
time.
Reba, remember?
And
On
now
the
she's got a
sitcom?
show
Yeah.
out called Baby Daddy that's doing really well.
Oh.
But she hosted the show, and then we had a band that backed up contestants. And in that band, Steve Dorff,
Yeah.
he was the band leader, and Brooks and Dunn, one of their backup singers.
And you were.
And I was one of the singers, and they would always give me the Johnny Cash or Hank Williams Jr. songs.
You're not a contestant.
Oh, no.
You
I
were
would
just-
like sing a line, and then the contestant would complete it.
Oh.
We had 5 seasons. That was a fun time.
Well, I don't know about
It was a lot of work, though. It was a lot of work. We would have to learn hundreds of songs for each season.
Well, you're an amazing singer. When you
Well,
get up on
thank
stage,
you.
I don't even know how to describe it. I was like trying to put my finger on it. I'm like, it's a mix of maybe Waylon, maybe Cash, maybe this. I was pulling all this.
Well, that's a
it's
compliment.
so unique, but so, oh my gosh.
Well, that's
yeah.
a compliment because it's just that's the way I sing.
You tour quite a bit. You're pretty
I
busy on
do,
your calendar.
yeah, I do. It's been a busy summer. I just experienced one of the coolest trips ever. I was in Carthage, Texas, with the Texas Music Hall of Fame. Tex Ritter's niece, Tommy Ritter, does an amazing job down there. And Kenny Rogers was inducted. Linda Davis was there. Tracy Bird, and I sang on Linda's portion of the show, and we had a great time. And I flew into Shreveport, and that's where the Louisiana Hayride was located.
Yeah.
And that same building, the Municipal Auditorium, it's still there. And it's just like walking into 1952, and I had a chance to tour that facility.
Whoa. The Municipal Auditorium
The
in
Municipal in
okay.
Shreveport. I mean, think about it.
Yeah,
I mean,
where Elvis.
Elvis, Hank Williams, Johnny Horton,
Yep.
Johnny Cash, Buck Owens,
Jimmy C. Newman was
Jimmy
there.
C.
Hey.
Newman. Yeah. But yeah, I've got, the busiest times of the year have passed, but I still have several shows and dates coming up. I've got a workshop, a songwriter workshop. I don't do much of that, but I'm doing one in Montgomery at the Hank Williams Museum, October 26th. And songwriter Steve Dean, Mark Narmore, Aaron Bowling from Curb Records, he's going to be there. And it's going to be a lot of fun, actually, at the museum.
Nice.
Yeah.
And will you give tips on how to write that hit song, or just how to?
We'll
put a
share
song
our
down?
experiences and talk about our journeys, and anything they want to know, if we can answer it, we will. And it's just the coolest little setting. It's like a 3-day workshop. It's not one of these, we're in for 2 hours and that's it. We actually hang out and jam at night in the museum,
fun.
right there with Hank, all of his suits and the car, and it's just.
I bet that's
it's
inspiring.
a
Yeah,
one of a kind
that's where you get
workshop.
song ideas,
It's
yeah.
a one of a kind, and it's funny. This is like the 4th workshop that we've done down there, and it's like just one big family, and a lot of the same people come back every year, and it's
So
one of,
Curb is sponsoring
no,
it?
Curb's not involved. It's just the Hank Williams Museum in Montgomery. So
Yeah.
there's still time to sign up, and
Yeah.
and any money made will go toward the museum, keeping it
Very
going.
nice.
Do you want to win friends and influence people? Don't buy a book. Advertise on Studio 23 Nashville. It's easy. Just contact us at studio23nashville@gmail.com.
Well, Bobby, I'm excited about playing songwriter.
Well, man, I'm enjoying you playing with me today.
Well, that
man.
recording,
Great player.
Oh,
Great
I wouldn't
player.
go that far
Oh,
at all.
yeah,
I'm a
man.
dilettante. I can put a little slide on the strings.
No.
It's knowing what not to do, because there's a lot of ways to sound pretty foolish and sour if you don't restrain yourself. And
Yeah,
that's
less
what I
is
did.
more
Yeah,
sometimes.
with the slide in particular. Okay, so the songwriter has a really nice, swampy, funky, it sounds cool.
Well, there's a story behind that one. I was visiting my hometown of Luverne, Alabama.
Yeah.
And I stopped by Montgomery to pay my respects to Hank Williams at the grave. I've stopped there many times through the years. And there's a guy there who takes care of Hank's grave for Hank Jr. His name is Terry Faust. And wouldn't you know, he's a songwriter.
Wouldn't you know?
So I'm standing there on the hill, the train passing down below, having a moment, and then Terry shows up. And he's like, man, I've got a song idea for you. And I thought, oh, man, not right now. And, man, he shared it with me, and he had a great start on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I'd love to work on this song. And I hit I-65 back to Nashville.
Yeah.
And just so happens, I was writing with Country Music Hall of Fame member Bobby Bear that week.
Yeah.
And it was my first time writing with him. And I shared this with him, and man, he loved it. And then we all finished it. And
Bobby worked on it too.
yeah, he did. And on my new CD, he came in and sang on it.
Oh, I heard that. Yeah.
That was a treat for me, because he's definitely one of my heroes. And
Did he help tell the hard luck side of the
yeah,
songwriter?
are you kidding? He
There's
knew,
some lyrics.
He
that
knew
really-
a lot of those guys.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's also a kind of a mysterious line where you say, "And I even knew his name." Is that a real experience coming up here? And is there a
That
particular?
didn't, no,
That's
but
an
we just kind of imagined
a generic.
yeah, I mean, I remember driving into town before I came here. I remember going to the old Longhorn around close to Music Row, and,
Yeah.
and I remember Harlan Howard.
Yeah, he used to hold.
Yeah, I
part of
remember
that, sure.
seeing him. So when we were writing this, I kind of pictured Harlan or maybe Hank Cochran or one of those guys.
Oh man. Well, thank you for writing the song and doing such a good job with it. It's a pleasure to play it. So I'll let you take the first part.
All
Bring
right.
that slide in.
Here we
All
go.
right.
I drove into Nashville with a sack of songs I wrote. Parked the car, walked in a bar not far from Music Row. And there sat a poet who's in the Hall of Fame. I knew the words to all of his songs, and I even knew his name. couldn't believe the hell that I went through to get them on. If I knew then what I know now, I'm sure I'd never left home. You think you want to be a songwriter like me, but you don't. You said, man, I was really something in my prime. I had 3 songs in the top 10 at the same time. Be careful what you wish for. You may get what you want. You think you want to be a songwriter like me, but you don't. He said, now I made a ton of money, but it went to my ex-wives, and the rest flew out the window when the IRS arrived. When you lose your home and all your songs, you'll find what you're made of. It's son, by looking in your eyes, you ain't crazy enough. So go home to your family and leave guys like me alone. You think you want to be a songwriter, but you don't. He said, man, I was really something in my prime, but now my friends, they've all drifted off, and I'm down to my last dime. Be careful what you wish for. You may get what you want. You think you want to be a songwriter like me, but you don't. And go home to your family and leave guys like me alone. You think you want to be a songwriter like me, but you don't. Trust me. Oh man.
Coming straight from the graveside of Hank.
I always tease Terry. I'm like, I think Hank whispered that idea to you.
Well, the way you describe the area and the museum and the streets where Hank walked, I feel like I've been there already.
Oh,
Just your
no
description.
doubt. I mean, if you go to Montgomery, downtown Montgomery,
Yeah.
where the Hank Williams Museum is,
Yeah.
I mean, the car that he passed away in, his first guitar is in the museum. And also, you've got the old theater he used to play at. You've got his favorite old restaurant. You've got the building where he worked in radio as a teenager. It's still standing.
My impression is that, country music is simple and it's got a certain way of telling stories about people's lives, but there's the way you do it and the way you make me feel that area where Hank came from, it's really soulful. It's just got
Thank you.
so much human reality and emotion in it.
It's very real.
Yeah.
The spirit, it's still there.
Yeah.
Come to Montgomery.
Yeah. Well, that's the impression. I feel like it's the land that produced Hank. It's the land where the spirit is.
Absolutely.
And Hank
And,
contained it, but it didn't end. When his life
No, it didn't end.
Yeah.
He was born actually in a little town, Georgiana, Alabama.
near Montgomery.
Yeah, Mount Olive, and there's an old blues singer who actually taught him to play the blues on the streets down there.
In Georgiana.
Greenville.
Yeah. Well, is that the guy T-Tot?
T-Tot.
Yeah.
Rufus Payne.
Hey, welcome back to Studio 23 Nashville. I hope you're enjoying Bobby Tomberlin. He's written so much great music. Brian and I are just in awe here.
Well, I love this rocking chair.
Isn't that great?
That's about 3 generations old.
Really, I love a rocking chair.
Yeah. Well, you fit in it well.
Okay, I feel a song coming on. I love a rocking chair. There's always a story with the rocking chair.
Right.
You two need to get
Oh,
together.
the rocking chair blues.
We ought to try that. Do you remember Mac Davis's show? Where he would write a song, you just put him on the
Right
spot.
there?
Yeah.
That was my introduction to songwriting.
Yes.
An audience member would just give him a random title, and it could even be something like Pink Butterflies, and he would sit there on the spot and write, well, pink butterflies flying around my head. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And that's actually where I really got the songwriting bug from his
back
show.
to it on the spot. Yeah.
Well, tell us about your new album. You've got a new album, Out of Road?
Out of Road. Really proud of this record. It's the record I've always wanted to make, and it was made possible, actually. My buddy PJ West over in Gatlinburg at Crystal Creek, he just really loves what I do, and he kept telling me, man, we need to get in the studio. So he was executive producer, and I recorded it at Curb, and Vince Gill sang harmony on the record, and Mo Pitney singing harmony, and Bobby Bear comes in whispering Bill Anderson, and Linda Davis, and I'm just and I'm not just name dropping. I mean, these people really contributed to the songs. It wasn't just having a guest artist. They either co-wrote the song, or like in Vince's case, I mean, it was just meant for him to sing harmony on that Grand Ole Opry song because he represents the Opry so well, and that's the reason I asked him.
And Bobby Bear was sort of like a character actor on
the songwriter's song.
Yeah.
And that was I can't tell you what a big deal that was for me to have him in the studio, because I've loved Bobby, since I was a kid, listening to 500 Miles Away from Home and Detroit City. But yeah, that's it's available. You can get it on my website, BobbyTomberlinMusic.com, and it's available on iTunes as well.
Okay.
We're going to have to visit your website and keep up with your busy schedule. You're all over the place. You really are.
I'm just having fun.
Burning up the road.
I'm really having fun. It feels good to be able to say that after all these years, but I love the music. That hasn't changed. I'm still a fan. You mentioned Charlie McCoy off camera a moment ago.
Yeah.
I saw him the other night at a special presentation at Studio B, and I had a little moment of being in awe. I'm like, oh wow, there's the guy who played on Old Dogs and Children, Tom T. Hall, and so many other big hits, and I've just never lost that.
Yeah. Well, you're helping contribute to the lineage,
Well, I hope so.
You're among the writers. I mean, making a movie with Chris Christopherson.
Well, I've been so blessed. I mean, to write songs with some of my heroes, like Loretta Lynn or Brenda Lee and Phil Everly, the Everly Brothers. And that's been the highlight for me.
Yeah.
More than even getting a song recorded. Yeah. It's true.
Just
These
hanging out with
relationships.
these people.
And then you find out they're just really cool people.
That is cool.
That is great.
And you inspire a lot of us. We are so happy you stopped by here and hung out with us. Did a
I
little picking with
appreciate
Brian.
it. I've just enjoyed playing music with you.
It's a treat,
and I've
Bobby.
respected what you do for a long time.
Well,
And
thank you, Bobby.
We've been able to do some other stuff together, and always good to visit with you.
Definitely.
Well, here you are with the dogs and the rocking chair.
I know. Hey, man, I don't want to
Right
go
at
home.
home.
got a
We
few
might
songs
keep
to
him
write
here
in.
at Studio 23 Nashville.
I'm happy.
Twist
Hey,
our
man.
arm. Thanks,
It's
Bobby.
a pleasure.
Now I can really rock fast,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I wanted to do that the whole time.
Yeah, rocking with Bobby.
All right.
Great to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.